My dreams predict the future. The last one was a nightmare. The alarm clock blared its usual 6:00 a.m. symphony of dread. I slammed the snooze button, a futile gesture against the encroaching day. My apartment, all sterile lines and muted grays, felt less like a home and more like a holding cell. Just another Monday. Another day of designing soulless office buildings for Thorne Associates. But this Monday was different. It was stained with the residue of last night's nightmare. I don't usually pay much attention to my dreams. They're just dreams, right? But I've always had vivid ones, the kind that cling to you long after you wake up. And every so often one of them comes true. Small things. A spilled coffee, a delayed train, a winning lottery number I didn't even bother playing. Annoyances mostly. I chalked it up to coincidence. Until now. Last night's dream wasn't a spilled coffee. It was Robert Harding, CEO of Harding Corporation, bleeding out on a Persian rug. A rug I somehow knew was in his study. The details were horrifically clear, the glint of the antique letter opener plunged into his chest, the way his eyes widened in disbelief, the crimson stain blossoming on the expensive fabric. I woke up gasping, heart hammering, convinced I could still smell the metallic tang of blood. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to scrub away the image. It was just a dream, I muttered to the mirror, the words sounding hollow even to my own ears, but the feeling persisted, a cold dread that settled deep in my bones. I knew with a certainty that defied logic that Robert Harding was going to die. I called Dr. Sharma later that day. Her office, a sanctuary of soft lighting and calming earth tones, usually helped to ground me, but not today. I recounted the dream, the details spilling out in a rush of anxious energy. "Elias," she said gently, her brow furrowed with concern, "you've been under a lot of stress lately. The divorce, the job, it's all taking its toll. Nightmares are a common symptom of anxiety." "But Anya," I protested, "this wasn't just a nightmare. It felt real. And I've had these dreams before, the ones that come true. I can't explain it, but I know something bad is going to happen." She sighed, a sound that betrayed her skepticism. "Elias, I understand your anxiety, but you can't let these dreams control your life. You need to focus on the present, on what's real. We've discussed coping mechanisms, relaxation techniques, try those. And please get some rest." Her words offered little comfort. I left her office feeling more lost than ever. That evening I found myself compulsively searching for news about Robert Harding. I told myself I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. I scrolled through news articles, press releases, anything that might indicate something was amiss. Nothing. He was still the picture of success, the smiling face of a thriving corporation. I even considered calling the police. But what would I say? "Officer, I had a dream that this guy is going to get murdered. Can you protect him?" They'd laugh me out of the station, or worse, they'd think I was a threat. I confided in Sarah, my ex-wife, that night. We'd managed to salvage a fragile friendship from the wreckage of our marriage. I knew she'd think I was crazy, but I didn't know who else to turn to. "Elias, honey," she said, her voice laced with concern, "you're scaring me. Are you taking your medication? Maybe you need to increase the dosage." "It's not my meds, Sarah," I insisted. "I know this sounds insane, but I'm telling you, something is going to happen to Harding." She was silent for a moment. "Elias, I know you've always had these quirks, but you can't let them consume you. Harding is a powerful man. He's surrounded by security. Nothing is going to happen to him." Her words stung, even though I knew she was just trying to help. I was alone in this. Days passed, each one an agonizing countdown. I couldn't sleep. When I did, the nightmare returned, each time more vivid, more brutal. I saw the killer's face now, a blurry, indistinct figure shrouded in shadow. I heard his voice, a low, guttural whisper that sent shivers down my spine. And then on Friday morning it happened. The news broke: Robert Harding was missing. The headlines screamed of a corporate titan vanished, a city in shock. The police launched a full-scale investigation. My stomach churned with a mixture of dread and a perverse sense of validation. I wasn't crazy. My dream had come true. Detective Olsen, a man with a face etched with years of grim experience, contacted me on Saturday. He was polite but wary, his eyes scrutinizing me with an intensity that made me sweat. "Mr. Thorne," he said, his voice gravelly, "we understand you contacted the police department earlier this week with concerns about Mr. Harding's safety. Can you elaborate on that? I hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. I had a feeling something was going to happen to him, I stammered. I can't explain it, but I knew he was in danger. A feeling, he pressed. Did you have any specific information? Did Mr. Harding contact you? Did you receive any threats? No, I said, shaking my head. It was just a feeling. A premonition. He raised an eyebrow, his expression unreadable. A premonition, Mr. Thorne, are you claiming to be psychic? I swallowed hard. No, detective. I'm just trying to help. He questioned me for hours, meticulously documenting my every word. He seemed skeptical, but I could sense a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. He asked about my history, my mental health, my relationship with Sarah. He asked about my dreams. I told him everything. About the recurring nightmares, the small predictions that had come true, the chilling certainty that Harding was dead. He listened patiently, taking notes, his face a mask of professional detachment. As I left the precinct, I felt a strange sense of relief. I had told the truth, as unbelievable as it sounded. Now it was out of my hands, but the dreams continued, more intense than ever. They led me to believe Robert was not just missing, but in fact deceased, and the images felt real. I started searching his company, looking for clues. I was looking for someone that might have a motive. I started researching Harding's business dealings. I learned about shady investments, secret offshore accounts, and disgruntled employees. He had made a lot of enemies on his way to the top. I felt compelled to tell someone. I called Ben. He was still skeptical, but he was worried about me. Ben was always grounded. Elias, you gotta take care of yourself. This Harding thing, it's consuming you. Let the police handle it. I can't, Ben, I said, my voice cracking with desperation. I know where he is. I saw it in my dream. I have to do something, he sighed. All right. What do you need? That night I had the clearest dream yet. I saw Harding's body buried in a shallow grave in the woods outside the city. I saw the killer standing over him, a shovel in his hand, his face still obscured by shadows. But this time I saw something else, a distinctive tattoo on the killer's wrist, a coiled serpent wrapped around a dagger. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding. I knew I had to tell Detective Olsen. He listened intently as I described the dream, his expression shifting from skepticism to something approaching belief. A tattoo, you say? He asked, his voice tight. A coiled serpent around a dagger. Yes, I said, nodding eagerly. It was clear as day. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, it's him. He's the killer. Olsen excused himself and left the room. When he returned, his face was grim. We found him, Mr. Thorne, he said, his voice low. Harding's body. It was exactly where you said it would be. And one of Harding's bodyguards has a tattoo matching your description. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I had been right all along. My dream had led them to the killer. But the relief was short-lived. As the police investigation progressed, I learned more about Harding's dealings. He had been involved in some very dangerous activities that had attracted the attention of some very powerful people. I started to feel like I was being watched. I saw strange cars parked outside my apartment. I heard whispers in the shadows. I knew I was in danger. I went to see Old Man Hemlock. He was an older man who frequented the park near my apartment. He always seemed to know more than he let on. Old Man Hemlock, I said, approaching him cautiously, I need your help. I've been having these dreams, he nodded knowingly, his eyes twinkling. The dreams are a gift, Elias, he said, his voice raspy, but they are also a curse. You have opened a door and now you must be careful what comes through. What do you mean? I asked, confused. There are forces at work in this world that you cannot comprehend, he said. Dark forces. They are drawn to power, to secrets, to those who can see beyond the veil. You are one of those, Elias. You must be careful. His words chilled me to the bone. I was in over my head. I had another dream that night, the most terrifying one yet. I was standing in a grand, decaying mansion, the air thick with the stench of decay. I saw Harding's killer, the bodyguard with the serpent tattoo, standing before me, a sinister smile on his face. You shouldn't have interfered, he said, his voice a guttural growl. Now you will pay the price. He lunged at me, a knife glinting in his hand. I woke up screaming. I knew I was in danger. I had to get out of the city. I called Sarah, begging her to meet me. I needed to tell her everything, to warn her. We met at a small coffee shop on the edge of town. I recounted everything that had happened, from the initial nightmare to the encounter with Old Man Hemlock. She listened in stunned silence, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Elias," she said, her voice trembling, "I don't know what to say. I want to believe you, but this is all so insane." "I know," I said, grabbing her hand, "but please, you have to trust me. I'm in danger, and you might be too." As I was about to continue, I saw something out of the corner of my eye, a figure standing across the street watching us. He was tall and gaunt, his face hidden in shadow, but I recognized him instantly. It was the faceless man from my dreams. I froze, my blood turning to ice. "He's here," I whispered, my voice barely audible. Sarah followed my gaze, her eyes widening in terror. "Who?" she asked, her voice shaking. "The man from my dreams," I said. "He's the one who's been orchestrating everything." The faceless man raised his hand and everything went black. I woke up in a hospital bed, my head throbbing. Sarah was sitting beside me, her face pale with worry. "What happened?" I asked, my voice raspy. "You collapsed," she said, her voice trembling. "You had a seizure. The doctors said it was stress-induced." I looked around the room, searching for the faceless man. He was gone. "He was here," I said, my voice frantic. "The man from my dreams. He was watching us." Sarah squeezed my hand. "Elias, you're not making any sense. There was no one there, it was just us." But I knew she was wrong. He had been there, and he was still out there. The police never found any evidence to connect Harding's murder to a larger conspiracy. The bodyguard was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. The case was closed, but for me it was far from over. The dreams continued, more vivid, more terrifying than ever. The faceless man was always there, watching, waiting. I knew he was coming for me. I moved out of my apartment, changed my name, and went into hiding. I tried to forget about the dreams, to forget about Harding, to forget about the faceless man. But some things you can never forget. One night, I woke up in a cold sweat, gasping for breath. I had had the dream again, the dream of the grand, decaying mansion. But this time, the faceless man was standing in front of me, his face no longer obscured by shadows. His eyes were cold and empty, filled with an ancient, malevolent power. "It's time," he said, his voice a chilling whisper. "It's time for you to pay the price." And then I woke up. I was no longer in my bed. I was standing in the grand, decaying mansion, the air thick with the stench of decay. The faceless man was standing before me, his hand outstretched, beckoning me forward. I knew what I had to do. I had to confront him, to face the darkness that had been haunting my dreams for so long. I stepped forward into the darkness. The last thing I saw was the faceless man's eyes, cold and empty, filled with an ancient, malevolent power. The story ends here. Or does it? I'm not sure I'm even alive. But I know one thing: this is far from over. The nightmares are just beginning.